My name's Daniel, and this is Burma. Burma is the last frontier of Southeast Asia. It's blessed with many natural resources, but cursed by greedy neighbors. Up here in the jungle, the only reliable mode of transportation is to walk. A network of trails carve through the jungle, fusing villages into nature and the people to each other. The humans walking these paths are the Karen, an ethnic minority indigenous to Burma since before it had that name. The Karen spend much of their lives walking these trails through rain and fog as they navigate across vast mountain ranges. This labyrinth of paths and treacherous terrain is a safety net. The jungle protects the Karen from their enemy. They have been playing a deadly game of cat and mouse with a predatory government that has been hunting them for close to a century.
Over 50 years of civil war have left Burma one of the poorest countries in the world. The military dictatorship attacks its own people. Pro-democracy Burmese and ethnic groups try to protect their people and resist the attacks of the Burma army.
This civil war explains the deserted villages and abandoned buildings scattering the landscape. The Karen are in a perpetual state of movement as they evade the body of war thrashing around the country. Non-essentials are abandoned. Carrying only their most valued possessions, they walk deeper into the jungle, hoping to find shelter with their neighbors. What they leave behind, the junta military burns. The realities of war are reflected everywhere. Homes are adorned with weapons, farmers moonlight as soldiers, tragedy haunts every family, heartbreak echoes throughout the community. This is the world's longest active civil war, and to understand why it's happening, here is a brief history taking us back to 1824. In the early 19th century, the British carved out some Southeast Asian land and thought of calling it Further India, but decided on naming it Burma after the major ethnic group, the Burmans. This arbitrary border drawing divided the Karen's land, leaving the majority of this distinct group isolated in a made-up country with their longtime tribal enemies for roommates. Every ethnic community was fractured. Their lands were taken by colonial decree, and with an uncompromising landlord, the Karen became an internally displaced people. But for a century, Britain held rule of law, so there was relative peace. Then, in 1948, right after World War II, the British began giving its empire back. But to whom? In the case of Burma, half a dozen distinct ethnic groups lived in this politically administered space. So which group should be given political control of the others? England gave it to the Burman, suggesting they set up a parliament and called it a day.
The Union of Burma.
This lazy act of rule created the landscape for a century-long civil war. After receiving autonomy, Burma's parliamentary system broke into factions. Divided by ethnicity, ideology, religion, and culture, Burma was at war with itself. Despots swapped in and out of power, each engaging in ethnic cleansing against the Rohingya, Kachin, Chin, and Karen, eventually turning on their own people.
For almost 30 years, Burma has been closed off from the world, taken into isolation by a dictator whose dream of a socialist utopia became such a nightmare that the people rose in revolt.
Everything crescendoed in 1988 when university students in the capital city of Rangoon, modern-day Yangon, held protests against their dictator who, for superstitious reasons, had demonetized their currency. And this is how the government responded.
The army went in with guns and tanks to disperse the protesters. They dragged the students out of the dorms and shot them. More than 100 students were killed. The next morning, government troops blew up the Students' Union building, where students were still taking shelter.
The Burmese population erupted in anger. Around 10,000 people were shot in the streets, in their homes, and in hospitals. Martial law was declared with shoot on-site orders for anyone outside of their homes after dark. Another coup followed, attempting to restore order, and then, amidst the chaos, the world started to take notice. The UN began pressuring Burma to change their ways, so Burma changed their name to Myanmar. But the world kept skeptical eyes on Myanmar, and the military generals apprehensively backed down, allowing for semi-democratic elections and a time of relative peace. Aung San Suu Kyi, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was elected and a civilian's government established. Things were getting better. There was a decade-long ceasefire with most of the ethnic minorities. The citizens liked their leader, there were elections, people voted. But the military still pulled the strings of the people's government. And in 2020, a proxy party for the military received so few votes that they called election fraud on Suu Kyi's party. The world was distracted and opportunity arose. The military performed coup d'etat in 2021, once again establishing a military regime. The people were pissed. Their elected leader was arrested, their government overthrown, and the world was too busy to care. So doctors in white lab coats led the protests, and monks followed suit. Mothers pleaded with the soldiers as caravans rolled in with military orders.
Police were filmed kicking and pulling a cowering young woman away by the hair after the person sheltering next to her was shot dead. Soldiers are sweeping through neighborhoods, hunting people down. Among the most wanted, doctors, who have been at the vanguard of the civil disobedience movement.
The citizenry stopped joining the army, began defecting and sabotaging military efforts. These rebels were tracked down and killed. Some who escaped the cities fled into the jungle to find sanctuary with the Karen and other ethnic minorities. Life for the Karen is casually primitive. They cook rice in bamboo kitchens with water siphoned from a nearby stream. They like food, they like serving it, eating it, and they like it spicy. Everyone is expected to sing publicly despite skill levels. They butcher their own meat and cook over open fires. They swirl makeup made from a petrified tree on their faces, both for utility and aesthetics. They're always working, but also always laughing. Mostly they walk, but sometimes, if the roads are good, catch a ride in the back of a vehicle. They hike in sandals and never wear shoes inside. The jungle is muddy and they like to be clean. They shower multiple times a day from a bucket of stream water. They're Buddhistic Christians with that spark of animism found in those who still rely on nature. Elephants help clear the land, monkeys are kept as pets. Weddings, graduations, Christmases, every occasion is an excuse for karaoke. Umbrellas hide them from the rain and sun. They wear longies, a traditional breeze-capturing infinity pant, which is utilized as a baby sling, stretcher, stuff carrier, and for public bathing. A steel blade sunk into a bamboo hilt is the only tool the Karen need to build a village. There's a type of bamboo for everything. Floor bamboo, tying bamboo, roofing bamboo, weaving bamboo, and bridge bamboo. In the evenings, they gather to play games in the fields. They laugh often and keep each other's spirits high. Work and play weave together into the fabric of day-to-day life. But they're never entirely at ease. Planes circle above like sharks deciding when to attack. Trenches are dug throughout the villages as shelters from the bombs. When the alarm sounds, everyone runs for cover. Life never truly feels safe when the sky is chasing you down. There's little to do but hide and pray for a day when their children won't have to grow up in this. But despite their circumstances, the Karen have learned how to live life to its fullest. They've got incredible skills, brilliant style, and so much heart. They're notoriously bad at business, probably because they are primarily non-monetary. Instead, they invest into the architecture of their society. Every problem is a community problem with a community solution. They focus on what really makes people strong. They cook together, work together, and are always laughing. In a world of war, they seem to have found a place in their tribe where life remains full of joy. But they are anxious for change. The tides are shifting, and although the war has restarted, they've never had a better opportunity than they do right now. They have a chance to regain what they've always been missing, the recognition that their land belongs to them. They are tired of being a stateless people. They are tired of war. But it's not over yet. Bombs continue to rain down daily. Soldiers are stepping on landmines, bases are being taken, and the relentless war carries on because, unfortunately, an unstable Burma is a more profitable Burma. China and Russia siphon out all kinds of fuels, precious metals, and timber.
And it is here that Chinese businesses are able to illegally purchase the right to log entire mountains.
They realize that sustained, low-grade civil war is good for business. The junta receives bombers from Russia, China gives them a plethora of weapons, India, Thailand, and others support the illegitimate regime through cheap trade. The junta shows little humanity. Bombing civilian schools and holiday gatherings, the government is a war criminal who insists on fighting a war of attrition, and war means wounds. The injured arrive here, in one of the few clinics operating in the jungle. The doctors working here are lion-hearted. They work in improvised operating rooms built of plastic-covered wood-slated walls with a single generator for power in the middle of the unforgiving jungle. But it is here that they choose to relentlessly tend to the wounds inflicted by this endless war. They perform a wide range of surgeries, from landmine wounds to C-sections. They remove appendixes, extract shrapnel, and diligently cleanse festering wounds. Every day, they save the lives of people who had no other options. These clinics provide a beacon of healing for this war-torn community. And yet, amidst this hellish situation, the Karen people keep on singing. Long ago, when the Karen befriended this jungle, it protected them from their oppressor. Then they outsmarted their enemy by staying true to who they are, a people of solidarity and compassion. Their resilience stems from their interconnectedness and unwavering devotion to one another. They survived a century-long genocide, not by losing their humanity, but by embracing it. And now their efforts are on the verge of being rewarded. The time is now, and everyone can feel it. A new day is dawning. A day where the old rulers will fall and new systems of government can be built, because the Karen are winning. United in the face of outrageous misfortune, all the peoples of Burma stand together facing their tyrant, and it's working. The ground war is pretty much won, but as long as Russia and China support the military regime, the war will suffer on until the junta can be dethroned and a new federalist system can be adopted.
All my life, run where you fall.
Despite this weight of sorrows, the Karen not only sing, but dance. In the face of a sea of trials, they bound themselves together into powerful communities so that even in the depths of the trenches, they find reason to dance, to live, to embrace the task of their situation. They are tired but fight on, with their hearts open and their minds hopeful. They will never give up. If you would like to support the Karen and this channel, this is a beautiful book exploring Karen myths, enchanted culture, and jungle life. It was written by a few frontline workers who have spent decades living with the Karen. You can find a link to the PDF in the description.